And welcome to the Ultimate Plan B, another edition of Kyle versus KJ. We're going to go ahead and analyze Week 9. I'm sure you definitely have a couple pressing matters for your lineups in the fantasy football world. So we're going to go ahead and get to the analysts that are going to help you with that. So first off, we're going to jump on to the Kyle side. Kyle, say what's up.
What's up, guys? It's Kyle here for your Week 9 fantasy advice. And just remember, there's a reason it's called Kyle versus KJ, not KJ versus Kyle.
All right, throwing jabs already. We didn't even start yet. All right, so the other side of the ring, we're going to go ahead and say what's up to KJ. Come out swinging.
What's up, guys? KJ here. I'm going to take the high road in this one and just let my picks speak for themselves for Week 9. Thanks, Kyle.
All right, going with the honest route. And as always, our man in the field, weathering the storm out there for us. Chris Gordon, say what's up to the guys.
Hey guys, Chris here, man in the field. Got a bunch of good questions for these analysts that we got from Facebook and Twitter. Just want to say thanks again for posting them, and we'll have them answered.
All right, well said. All right, so our first segment, we're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about our Plan Cs. That's our starts versus our sits. So, the first group we're going to talk about is our quarterbacks. Definitely the most important group, I would say. So, the first player up for discussion, Eli Manning of the New York Giants, going up against the Colts. Kyle, what do you say about Eli? Start him or sit him?
I'm going to go ahead and start Eli Manning this week. Giants' offense has looked better and better by each week, and they just came off a bye, and the Colts are beaten down on defense right now, and I think that they stay down.
Oof. Well said. And I'm sure the Colts are definitely hurting on defense with a couple changes they've been making. KJ on that side, what do you say? Start him or sit him?
I think this week's common theme is going to be depleted secondary, so there's going to be a couple quarterbacks you're going to want to start. Eli Manning is one of those guys. Odell Beckham looks good every week that he's played so far. I expect that trend to continue. So, yeah, I'd say start Eli Manning this week if you're looking for a quarterback to plug in. A couple good guys on by.
All right, definitely I hear you on that one. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into our next player. Tony Romo had a couple back issues. So how do you feel about him going up against Arizona? Are you going to start him or are you going to sit him, KJ? What do you say?
As somebody who picked up Tony Romo in a lot of leagues because he fell late, I'm going to bench him this week to kind of monitor the back situation. Jerry Jones already came out and said that the back situation is going to be based on Romo's tolerance for the pain. I don't like that going against that Arizona front. Darnell Dockett back. I think he's going to get a lot of pressure on Romo this week. Didn't generate any sacks on Foles last week, but they did affect a lot of passes. So definitely taking Tony Romo this week.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation to watch out for because Dallas was on the roll. It would be really terrible if they lose their quarterback. So Kyle, what do you say on Tony Romo?
I'm going to agree with KJ on this one. I'm going to sit Tony Romo. I think it's going to be a steady dose of DeMarco Murray and Joseph Randle. I think that even if he does drop back to pass, it's going to be out of his hand quick. It's going to be short routes and dink and dunks. So I would sit Tony Romo.
I hear you on that one. He's definitely want to keep it safe on this week. Against Arizona has been kind of picky. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our next quarterback, Mr. Alex Smith, going up against the Jets. Kyle, where are you staying on Alex Smith this week? Start him or sit him?
I love Alex Smith this week, especially because I have Aaron Rodgers on one of my teams. He's on a bye. So he's going against the Jets. They have a depleted secondary. They've looked awful. Dwayne Bowe has been a bigger part of the offense. I think they'll throw a couple screen passes Jamal Charles' way that'll pick up a big chunk of yards, and I think Alex Smith will have a nice day against the Jets.
Oh, I hope he has a nice day. I definitely picked him up. KJ, where you stand on Alex Smith going up against the Jets?
As much as I want to disagree with Kyle to kind of feed the debate section of this video, I'm going to go ahead and agree with him. The Jets are in a downward spiral right now. Defense is struggling. I think Alex Smith is definitely somebody to plug in on a week where you got Stafford, Rodgers, and Cutler all on a bye.
Certainly. I definitely hear you on that one. He's a good plug-in. So, I believe we have a question out in the field. Chris Gordon, what do you got to say from the people?
All right, so breaking news, yes, Rodfin III is coming back this week as the starter at Minnesota. What do you guys think he's going to be able to do for Washington?
Let's go ahead and jump on to KJ's side. What do you got to say about RG3?
I think RG3 is definitely a risky play this week, just based on the fact that he hasn't really played much this year. And when he has played, the offense just hasn't looked quite potent yet. He does have the weapons, and he's going against a defense that hasn't really proven much. So really struggling for a quarterback, somebody to start, and there's nobody else available. RG3's a risky plug and play, but start him if you have to.
Risky to say the least. Kyle, what do you got to say about the RG3 man?
Down the road, I do like RG3, but right now, I don't want to go anywhere near him. I think that just coming off this injury, the ankle injury, they're not going to let him run it all, and that's why you start Robert Griffin III, because he can run the ball, he can get you rushing touchdowns, and he can get you about 60, 70 yards on the ground. I don't think that's going to happen this week. I think he stays in the pocket, and when he's a pocket passer, I don't like him as a fantasy football quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Well said, I guess. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our next group, the running backs. Definitely the brunt of the force. So our first running back up in question, Ahmad Bradshaw, going up against the Giants. So, Kyle, would you start him or would you sit him?
I would definitely start Ahmad Bradshaw this week. Trent Richardson's still nicked up, and I think that Ahmad Bradshaw going against his old team, against the Giants, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be running hard, and I think he has 6 reception touchdowns on the year, and he's definitely going to be a big part of the offense this week.
I'd hope so as well. So KJ, what do you guys say about Ahmad Bradshaw going up against the Big Blue?
I got to agree with Kyle on this one, too. Bradshaw going against his former team, he's going to have something to prove. I think he's going to play with a little bit extra passion than he normally does, which is saying a lot because he's a pretty passionate player to begin with. So definitely Bradshaw to start this week. Plug him in. He's going to do work for you.
I hear on that one. He's definitely been on a roll lately, so I'm sure this feud is going to help him out a little bit more. So next player in question, we can go ahead and talk about Shane Vereen. Definitely a questionable situation going on in New England. Going up against Denver. Denver. KJ, what would you do about Shane Vereen? Would you start him or would you sit him?
Week to week, I've been really excited to start Shane Vereen ever since Stephen Ridley went down, but Denver is one of the top defenses against the run. And even in the screen game, I think he's going to struggle. I really see this being a one-sided game as much as I don't want it to be. I think Denver's going to come out swinging. So I would sit Shane Vereen this week if you've got somebody that you have an inkling or kind of gut feelings, or what fantasy football's all about.
Absolutely true. What they say is trust that gut. So let's go ahead and talk to the Denver Bronco that we have. Would you start Shane Vereen or would you sit him?
I actually love Shane Vereen this week as a Broncos fan because I watched the way the Patriots play the Broncos for years now. I know Gray got 15 touches last week for the Patriots, and people think that he's going to take some touches away. But this game's going to be a shootout. They're going to be going through the air. And I know that Vereen's going to get open a couple times this week against the Broncos, so I would definitely start Shane Vereen.
All right, that's straight from a Denver Bronco himself. All right, so next player in question that we're going to talk about has definitely been a hot pickup this week, I'd say. DeAngelo Williams going up against the Saints. So, Kyle, would you start him or would you sit him?
I'm kind of going with my heart here because I've had DeAngelo Williams on one of my teams for the entire year, just waiting for him to come back. I'm starting him this week just because of what is going on in the Panthers' backfield. I feel like they're not using anyone. Even Jonathan Stewart, he hasn't looked good. Cam needs to hand the ball off to somebody. And I think that as long as he's healthy, he should get about 15 touches and hopefully get into the end zone this week.
DeAngelo Williams. KJ, would you start him or would you sit him?
I am staying away from DeAngelo Williams like the plague for the rest of the season. I just don't trust anybody in the backfield of Carolina. And if you saw this last Saints game, their offense is clicking on all cylinders. I think Carolina's going to be chasing points this week. So I think that Cam's going to have to throw a lot. If they get in goal line situations, I think you're going to be seeing some quarterback sneaks versus them handing it off to DeAngelo. So I am sitting, dropping, forgetting about DeAngelo Williams probably for the rest of his career.
That is a risky pick, I'd say. So I believe we have some questions in the field for our running back group. Chris Gordon, for the people.
All right, so we actually have 2 running back questions. So the first one is Ronnie Hillman at New England or Chris Ivory at Kansas City?
All right, let's go ahead and hand it off to Kyle. What do you got to say?
as much as I love Chris Ivory as a runner, I just don't trust the fact that the Jets will be in this game, and they'll have to get away from the run game very quickly in Loud Stadium in Kansas City. I love Ronnie Hillman against New England. I know there is a few whispers that Monte Ball will be back this week, but I still think that Ronnie Hillman will be the main guy in Denver this week.
All right, that's definitely a viable pick, I'd say. So, KJ, what do you got to say on that side?
I think both guys are good starts this week. Ronnie Hillman's going to continue to be the offensive thing for Denver. Jawan Thompson, I think, is going to be the between the tackles guy. I liked him last week, and he rewarded me with 2 touchdowns. But Chris Ivory, I think, with the Jets, not wanting to start Geno Smith, they're going to want to take care of Michael Vick, not have him in the throwing too much, potentially taking hits, so they're going to want to run the ball with Ivory. So I think either one is a good start this week, honestly. So, yeah, I can't knock either one.
I agree on that one. So our second question from the people.
Second question. We have Brandon Oliver at Miami or Lamar Miller versus San Diego.
Let's hand this off to KJ.
I like Lamar Miller a lot this week against San Diego. San Diego hasn't really shown that they can stop runs consistently. Brandon Oliver has had a couple down weeks. I don't think they're going to be able to trust the run game. I think they're going to force Rivers to throw to Gates and Allen, and I think Brandon Oliver's in for a quiet day. So start Lamar Miller.
I hear you on that end. So, Kyle, what do you got to say on that question for the people?
Well, first of all, I would like to say I'm glad that KJ actually gave an answer for that one and didn't leave the viewers hanging. But I'm going to go with Lamar Miller just simply because he has more talent. I think that both guys get the same number of touches, just around the same number of snaps. But I think that Lamar Miller is more talented back, and he has a better game.
All right, definitely. Good question. Good question. I like that. So our next group, our wide receivers, wideouts. So the first player in question we're going to talk about, Percy Harvin, freshly traded to the Jets, going up against the Chiefs. So, KJ, would you start Percy or would you sit him?
I would sit Percy. I would look for the big Jet fan in your league to possibly trade Percy Harvin to. He left Seattle because he didn't like how they were using him as like a gadget player. He wants to be a more straight-up wide receiver. And if you saw that Jets game, they're doing the same thing in New York they did to him in Seattle, using him for gadget plays, running out of the backfields, end arounds, all that kind of stuff. So sit Percy Harvin, look to try to trade him, see if you can get any decent value out of him. I don't trust Percy Harvin at all.
To be honest, neither do I. So Kyle, what do you guys say on Percy?
I agree with KJ. I don't trust Percy Harvin at all either. But if you actually watched the Jets game last week, he was going on a lot of deep routes. They were actually trying to go with the home run threat instead of what Seattle used with him. So I would keep an eye on him and see what happens down the road. Mike Vick, if he continues to be the starter, he's actually a pretty good deep ball thrower, so you might see a little bit of increased value on Percy Harvin.
And the Chiefs definitely are susceptible to the deep ball sometime. All right, so our second.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
They're also playing KC. Head coach is Andy Reid. He knows Mike Vick pretty well, so I think that will also factor into Harvin potentially not doing work for you this week.
All right, definitely a viable fact to keep in mind when you're making a decision on Percy. So our second player in question, we're going to talk about Brandon Cooks going up against Carolina. So, KJ, Brandon Cooks, start him or would you sit him?
I'm in the mindset where if you have a Saints receiver this week, you are starting them. So Brandon Cooks is definitely somebody sneaky to play. I think the Carolina Panthers are probably going to game for Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colston, which leaves Cooks to pick up some yardage over the middle of the field. Start all your wide receivers for the Saints this week.
All right, that's a good plug for the Saints. All right, now we're going to go ahead and talk to Kyle. What do you got to say? Brandon Cooks, start him or sit him?
I'm definitely starting Brandon Cooks this week. If you watch the game, I think that Brandon Cooks is actually top of the pecking order on the wide receiver depth chart now. I think Marcus Colston is taking a back seat to Brandon Cooks. And he also actually runs the ball a couple times, too. He did have a rushing touchdown last week, so watch out for a couple end-around plays as well.
All right, well said. So we're going to go ahead and give you a nice little trick question, I'd say. So we're going to have to say, out of all the 49ers wide receiver group, who would you start going up against St. Louis? So, KJ, 49ers wide receivers? Would you start them or would you sit them?
I'm actually sitting them. I know the Rams haven't really shown much in their secondary, but with division games, it's always kind of a toss-up. The Rams do game plan pretty well for the Niners whenever they play them. So I don't trust Crabtree. I don't trust Stevie Johnson. I am benching my Niners receivers this week.
Definitely a tricky decision to make. All right, so Kyle, would you start any of the 49ers wide receivers or would you sit them?
I would tend to not want to start any of them, but I would say that if I did have to choose one to start, I'm going to go with Stevie Johnson on this one. The last game they played, I saw a little bit of a trust factor between Stevie Johnson and Colin Kaepernick. He's not a great route runner. He's kind of a free runner, but that's kind of a good thing from Kaepernick because he extends plays with his feet, and Stevie Johnson kind of just runs open. So I would go with Stevie Johnson at all of them.
All right, I definitely have him in a few leagues. That's a good flex option if you're looking for one. I believe we have a couple questions out in the field from the people. So we go to our man in the field, Chris Gordon.
All right, from the people. All right, the first question. We have Emmanuel Sanders at New England or Kelvin Benjamin versus New Orleans.
All right, so let's go ahead and hand this off to Kyle. What do you got to say?
I'm going to go just because I think that he's going to be more involved than Benjamin will be with the Panthers. If you look at a lot of Benjamin's touchdown catches this year, it's really been in garbage time. I think that Sanders will be involved the entire game against the Patriots. You're looking at around another 10 catches this week, and he'll be huge in PPR leagues this week. So go with Sanders.
Definitely a viable option, I'd say. So KJ, what would you have to say to the people?
I think if you have these two guys, your team's looking pretty good. You're probably looking at the playoffs right now. But so you should probably look to get both these guys in your lineup. But the edge I will give to Emmanuel Sanders is that he used to play in the AFC North, and he used to play a lot against the Patriots. So I think he knows the Patriots defense a little bit better than Kelvin knows the Saints defense. So I will give the nod to Emmanuel Sanders. We saw him have a huge day last week. 3 touchdowns, kind of killed me in a couple leagues. So, yeah, give the nod to Emmanuel Sanders, but try to get these two guys in your lineup if you have somebody else who's questionable.
All right, well said. So, back to the field, Mr. Chris Gordon. Next question.
Next question, we have Riley Cooper at Houston or Miles Austin versus Tampa Bay.
All right, that's a good question. All right, so let's talk to KJ, the Eagle. What do you got to say to the people?
Oh, this is a tough one. These are two choices. Riley Cooper, and who was the second one?
Miles Austin.
Miles Austin.
Versus Tampa Bay.
I'm going to go ahead and say Riley Cooper. There's been a lot of broken plays for the Eagles. Foles has been holding onto the ball way too long. He keeps finding Riley Cooper as this guy getting open for him. So I'd probably give the nod to Riley Cooper over Miles Austin. Miles Austin just hasn't done much outside of that 1 week where he had a big week. So I'd start Riley Cooper this week. Yeah, against the Texans.
I hope he does really bad. All right, so Kyle.
Awesome.
What do you have to say to the people?
I think that both of these guys are mediocre options at best, but if I had to choose one, I would go with the guy that is in the more high-powered offense. You're going to see a lot of snaps from Riley Cooper. Nick Foles threw the ball 62 times, so some of those got to go Riley Cooper's way. So out of that fact, I would just go with Riley Cooper.
Well said, sir. All right, that's from the people. So now we're going to jump into our next group, the tight ends. So, first player up for discussion, we have Larry Donnell of the Giants going up against the Colts. So, Kyle, where do you stand on Larry Donnell this week?
I'm actually going to sit Larry Donnell this week. I'm not sure what's been going on since that one game where he had 3 touchdown catches. He really hasn't looked that great since then. He does still get a couple targets, but he's had a fumbling issue this year, and I think that if I had to, I would go with a different option this week.
Definitely something to keep in mind. All right, so KJ, where do you stand on Mr. Larry Donnell? Start him or would you sit him?
I'm starting Larry Donnell this week. I think if you're a Larry Donnell owner, you're probably starting him because your first tight end didn't pan out. Maybe you're a Rapida owner, he got hurt. So I'm starting Larry Donnell because I think despite the fumble issues, I think Eli's still going to be looking his way based on his tendencies to throw to tight ends. Like I mentioned earlier, I think this game is going to be a point sponge. So I'm starting a lot of players in this game, Larry Donnell included.
All right, definitely something to keep in mind when you're checking that waiver wire, or if you have him sitting on your bench, which I hope. All right, so our next tight end in question, we have Jordan Reed, who's definitely back. He's gonna be away, visiting the Vikings. So, KJ, where are you standing on Jordan Reed? Would you start him or would you sit him?
Hopefully, you have a better option than Jordan Reed this week. With RG3 coming back, yes, he does have a tendency to throw to Jordan Reed. He was having a great year last year before he got hurt, started getting concussions and whatnot. So I'm a guy who would hold on to Reed, kind of see where the offense goes with RG3 back. So I am sitting Jordan Reed this week. Hopefully, you have a better player to plug in. Fingers crossed.
That's definitely a tight end to keep your eye on. So, Kyle, where do you stand on Jordan Reed? Would you start him or would you sit him?
I love Jordan Reed this week. Even with Colt McCoy, he got 7 catches. I know he only had 40 yards, but RG3 loves throwing to Reed. I think that he'll be using him as a security blanket in his first game back. I know he's not a great blocker, but if they're down, they're going to be using him on every down instead of just third down and short and all that stuff. So I would definitely start Jordan Reed this week.
And I'm sure a lot of people definitely dropped him before he even came back. So, believe we actually have a question in the field for the tight end group from the people. So, Chris Gordon, what do you got to say for him?
All right, so jumping on to the tight end question from the people. So we have Clay Harbor at Cincinnati or Jace Amaro at Candy.
Definitely a question to be answered. So, Kyle, what do you have to say for the people?
I'm going to go with Jason Morrow just because I think that Clay Harbor is a guy that just kind of gets thrown at the end of the game when they're getting blown out. I think that Jason Morrow is actually a vocal point in the Jets offense. They seemed to play a lot last week, and that might be a nice connection to look out for this week.
Definitely look out. That's the key word there. So, KJ, where do you stay on this side of the starts and sits?
Call me a homer, but I'm going to go with the former Eagle, Clay Harbor. I think there's a lot to be said for receivers and tight ends that get garbage time points. Allen Robinson is somebody to start, and he's basically just relevant because they're always behind. So I think Clay Harbor is another guy that you're going to want to look at. He's a check-down guy for Blake Bortles. I think Harbor is going to continue to get garbage time points. So yeah, I'd say I start Harbor over Jason Morrow, since Jason Morrow is probably going to get a little attention his way from the defense.
And garbage time is definitely something to think about as well. All right, so that's our tight end group. So now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next group, our defenses and our special teams. So the first group up for discussion, our Minnesota Vikings. Actually going to be at home, going up against the Redskins. So, where do you stand on this one, Kyle? Would you start the Vikings or would you sit them?
I'm going to start the Vikings this week. With RG3 coming back for his first game, I think that he'll be a little mistake prone, so we'll get a couple turnovers for the Vikings D this week. And the defense actually looked very good last week, so I think that they'll continue with the momentum this week.
Yeah, they've definitely been scoring in bunches, I'd say. So, KJ, where do you stand on the Vikings? Would you start them or would you sit them?
I don't trust the Vikings. I know Zimmer is trying his best to make that Vikings defense a formidable one, a top 5 defense, similar to what he did in Cincinnati, but I just don't trust him yet. Maybe 2015, there might be somebody you want to start, but this year I'm not trusting the Vikings, not even against a newly starting RG3.
All right, that's definitely a group to watch out.
Too many weapons.
That's very true, very true, very true. All right, so next group that we're going to talk about, the Kansas City Chiefs, DSTs, going up against the Jets. They're going to be at home. So, what do you say on that one, KJ? Would you start those or just sit them?
I'm absolutely starting the Kansas City Chiefs this week. Like I said earlier, Andy Reid knows how to game plan for Michael Vick, I'm sure. He's going to be rushing him out of the pocket as much as he can. I think KC's defense came into the year highly touted. They've kind of disappointed a little bit in a couple games. They've been dropped in a bunch of leagues. But if they're on your waiver wire, pick them up, plug them in this week. Start any defense you can against the New York Jets. Sadly, sorry, Jets fans. It's going to be a long season if it hasn't already been a long one to date.
All right, that's definitely something to think about. The Jets, they're certainly thinking. So, Kyle, what do you got to say about the Chiefs going against the Jets?
KJ actually kind of stole my thunder there at the end of his segment. I was going to say, it doesn't matter what the name of the defense is. If they're going against the Jets, you just start them because they're bound to give you at least 3 turnovers. You saw what happened last week. I think there was 6. So you're going to get plenty of points from a defense that's going up against the Jets. So definitely start the Chiefs this week.
Definitely. Check out their schedule, see what you get for the Jets. All right, so the next DSTs that we're going to talk about are the actual Redskins going up against the Vikings this time. So would you start the Redskins DSTs, KJ?
The Redskins is my sleeper DST for this week. I think they're going to be playing off a high from how they just beat the Dallas Cowboys, which I think shocked a lot of people. I think they're going to be playing with a lot of energy. I think they're going to be looking to rattle rookie quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. So definitely start the Washington Redskins this week. I like them a lot.
I like them too, to be honest. So, Kyle, where do you stand on the Redskins? Would you start them or would you sit them?
If you like your defense getting you negative points, then you can start the Redskins defense this week. I don't think that they're going to do anything. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to have a nice game. And if you have to start the Redskins defense, I would say look on your waivers and try to find somebody else.
All right, keeping it raw for the Redskins. All right, and that's what we call our Plan C, our starts versus our sits. So now we have a new segment we're going to jump into. Our Plan B versus Plan B is now going to be called our buy low or sell high. Basically, we're going to discuss our trade targets that are basically roaming all around the league, switching teams back and forth. So, the first player up in question, Calvin Johnson, who's been in and out of the lineup, have a little questions for the Lions. So, don't know where I stand on this one yet. But Kyle, where do you stand on Calvin Johnson? Would you buy low or sell high on the trade market?
I would definitely try to buy low on Calvin Johnson right now. I know whoever owns him is probably definitely frustrated right now. He's going through a couple injuries, and now the injury might be over, but he's on a bye this week. So I would say if somebody's wide receiver hungry, especially right now because he's on his bye, go after him right now because someone's going to be desperate enough to get rid of him because they need help. Definitely buy low this week as soon as you can on Calvin Johnson because he's going to come back next week stronger than ever.
Very true. Even with the questions surrounding Stafford, those two would definitely have an in-sync quality, I'd like to say. So, KJ, where you stand on Megatron? Buy low, sell high.
I don't think you're going to be able to buy low, and I think you're not going to want to sell high. I think the ship has sailed on that. Maybe a few weeks ago you could have bought low on him because of the injury issues and him just playing a decoy. But I think even though he's on a bye this week, obviously he's going to be coming back the week after. He should be 100%. He's somebody that you're going to want to start. He was the top wide receiver off the board for a reason. It's become 100%. So I think you're holding on to Calvin Johnson, and it's going to be tough for you to buy low on him from the Calvin Johnson owners in your leagues.
Certainly, well said. So the next player we're going to talk about on the trade market that's pretty popular, Frank Gore, running back for the 49ers. So, KJ, would you buy low or would you sell high on Gore?
I don't think you're going to be able to sell high. I think coming into the season, people were worried about his age, what his role is going to be in the Niners offense with them drafting Carlos Hyde and him being the heir apparent to the Niner throne. So I think you can probably get him. I think he stays where his value was at the beginning of the season as a RB2 flex guy. I do think he's got value. So if you want to trade for him, I don't knock you on that. I'd probably be looking to trade for him if somebody's desperate to get him off their team. So yeah, buy low on Frank Gore.
All right, buy low on Frank Gore. All right, so Kyle, where do you stand on Frank Gore and the trade market?
I'd say if you have to, I would buy low on him, but I don't really trust him enough to want to trade for him. So unless you're desperate at the running back position, I really would consider staying away from him because you just can't trust that he's going to get the ball enough to make a difference for your team. So I would say buy low if you had to, but I would stay away from him.
Certainly. Especially watch out for Carlos Hyde back there as well. You never know how much of an impact he's going to have going along with the season. So the next player in question on the trade market has been pretty popular in the past few weeks. Jerick McKinnon. A lot of people have been fighting for him, I'd like to say. So, Kyle, where do you stand on Jerick McKinnon? Would you buy low or would you sell high?
If I have him, I'm not getting rid of him. If I'm able to, I would buy low on him. This might be the last week that you're able to buy low because he's definitely taking the majority of the carries in that offense now. Matt Asiata is an afterthought, and McKinnon is definitely the more talented running back of the two. So if you have a chance to, this is your last week, buy low on Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah, he definitely took that starting role with the quickness. So, KJ, where do you stand on McKinnon? Would you buy low or would you sell him?
If I have Jerick McKinnon, I'm trying to keep him. He's definitely the starting back now for the Vikings. Matt Asiata has a ceiling. I think Minnesota's aware of what he can do, what his limitations are. He's had some inflated weeks where he puts up crazy points, but he's averaging a little over 3 yards a carry. So Jerick McKinnon is definitely going to be the guy to have there. I would hold on to him if you can. I think if he's going to be part of any trades, it's going to be those like 2-for-2 kind of trades where there's going to be a package deal. So hold on to McKinnon if you can. Trade for him if you can. If you see a good value out there, if somebody's looking to unload him for whatever reason, maybe they're looking for a wide receiver that you have. So get McKinnon.
All right, well said. And definitely if you have him, don't let him go for cheap. The next player in question for the buy low, sell high market, we have Matt Ryan, quarterback. So, Kyle, where do you stand on Matt Ryan? Would you buy low or would you sell him pretty high?
I would try to sell Matt Ryan if I had him. I don't know if I'd be able to sell high unless you have someone that's desperate for a quarterback, somebody that maybe is a Falcons fan, something like that. I don't see him having the big year that he did a couple of years ago. Julio Jones is still up there and leading receivers with receptions this year, but anyone besides Julio Jones in that offense, I'm not really liking this year. So I would sell Matt Ryan. I don't know how high you can sell him for, though.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Definitely Matt Ryan, somebody to watch out for. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and say what's up to KJ. What do you got to say on Matt Ryan?
I think Matt Ryan's value is at a low right now with that offensive line the way it is. I think if somebody's trying to trade for Matt Ryan, it's because maybe they just want to stream him for those matchups against the NFC South opponents that he's going to be playing. So try to trade Matt Ryan if you can. If you have another decent quarterback, so you drafted Phil Rivers late, and he's been a stud this year. So try to sell Matt Ryan, but I don't know what you're going to get in return because of the last couple of games he's had. You probably missed your boat again because of the performances he's had lately.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. So, the next player in question on the trade market has been pretty popular, I'd like to say. Jordan Cameron. So, on the trade market, where do you value Jordan Cameron? Would you buy low or sell high? KJ?
Jordan Cameron is a guy who's frustrated a lot of owners. He was supposed to be a stud tight end in that top 5 group, and injuries have kind of limited his productivity. I think he's a guy to definitely target as a buy low candidate. Maybe if you have a decent tight end right now that's kind of getting you through week to week, and you're looking for somebody who might be a stud later on. Maybe you're looking at a playoff spot already because you're having a pretty decent season. Somebody to stash on your bench for a while. So he's definitely a buy low candidate.
I hear you on that one. A lot of frustrated owners, especially how high he was being drafted as well. So, Kyle, where do you stand on Jordan Cameron in the trade market?
I wouldn't try to buy Jordan Cameron at this point. I know his name is basically what is getting him any kind of value at this point. He's injured. I know he's not going to be playing this week, so if I had him, I'd try to sell him. You won't be able to sell him high, but I wouldn't try to buy him at all. I don't think he's going to have a good rest of the year. Maybe if Johnny Manziel gets back into the mix, you might see something different there. But I think that if I had Jordan Cameron, I'd sell him, and if I didn't have him, I would stay away from him.
Certainly. Got some questions back there for Cleveland. So, let's go ahead and jump into our next segment. Segment everybody wants to hear about. Our sleepers. So, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, KJ, the quarterback group. Let's hear them. Where do you got to start?
So my sleeper quarterback this week is actually playing my team this week, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Again, we're talking deep sleepers. Poo-poo my quarterback pick. I'm the one that picked Kyle Orton a couple weeks ago. Anyway, so Ryan Fitzpatrick is the guy I'm picking this week. He's got 2 great targets in DeAndre Hopkins and Andre Johnson. We've seen the Eagles' defense, their secondary, Kerry Williams in particular, just giving up huge plays. So I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is somebody who could be in for a good day. The Eagles' defense isn't the one scoring the points; it's their special teams. So I think Fitz is in for a good day. against the Eagles this week. At least 2 touchdowns and over 200 yards.
That's a little hard for me to see, to be honest. All right, so
Have faith in your team, man. Have faith in your team, Bezel.
all right, so Kyle, who do you have sleeping in the quarterback slot?
Real quick, I just wanted to say that unless Ryan Fitzpatrick's beard grows an arm, I probably wouldn't start him this week. But to my starter, I'm going to go with Teddy Bridgewater, and that's why I was so against the Redskins defense in the beginning. The Redskins defense is 31st against the pass in fantasy football against opposing quarterbacks. You have to start Teddy Bridgewater. He's coming off a pretty decent game. I think that he'll play pretty well again this week, and you get a couple rushing yards out of him as well. So start Teddy Bridgewater.
All right, here, Teddy Bridgewater and Fitzpatrick. Definitely some sleepers, I'd like to say. So, go ahead to the next group, running backs. So, Kyle, who's your deep sleeper of the week in the running back slot?
I got the young kid from Tampa Bay, Charles Sims, going for me this week in the sleeper spot in the running backs position. Doug Martin has definitely fallen out of the ranks in Tampa Bay. They're looking to trade him also. So I think that Sims, as long as he's healthy, he's coming off the ankle injury, he might get a lot of snaps this week. So I know they've been really high on him ever since they drafted him. So I would go with starting Sims this week.
All right, Charles Sims, definitely somebody to watch out if you're looking and scrounging that waiver wire. So, KJ, who's sleeping in your running back slot?
So I guess Kyle kind of got back to me for stealing his thunder earlier in the segment. My guy was also Charles Sims. Loved him coming into this year. He was drawing a lot of Matt Forte comparisons. Definitely the super hamster is falling out of favor in Tampa Bay. If you're scraping the barrel of the waiver wire, Charles Sims is a guy to plug in, see what happens. I liked him a lot prior to him getting hurt. So, I'll agree with Kyle, and I say Charles Sims is a guy with a lot of potential this week.
All right, little gradients here on Charles Sims.
Chums across the board.
All right, so next group, wide receivers. KJ, who's your sleeper wideout?
So to kind of speak to my point earlier about starting all your Saints receivers, Kenny Stills. I like Kenny Stills a lot this week. I'm recommending him to a bunch of people. I think he will pay dividends. He is the new Robert Jim in this offense. And in a week where you've got a lot of stud wide receivers that you're sitting with Marshall, Alshon, Jordy Nelson's out. You get no Lions guys. Sammy Watkins is out. So you're really struggling for a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I think plugging in Stills this week is going to pay dividends. I think he's getting in the end zone. He's that deep threat. And they're going to throw the ball all over the field on Carolina.
We certainly know what's going on with Carolina's secondary, if that even exists. So, Kyle, who's sleeping in the wide receiver slot for you?
I'm going a little bit deeper this week on my wide receiver pick. I know Brian Quick is out for the season for the St. Louis Rams, so I'm going to go with Tavon Austin here. I know he's been a very big upset with where he got drafted. But San Francisco's defense is number 25 in the league against opposing wide receivers. So you might see a couple more targets for Tavon Austin now that Brian Quick's out. He's going to be their deep threat. So I think you might have a chance of getting a decent amount of yards this week and maybe a touchdown from Tavon Austin.
I definitely hear you on that one. The 49ers have been a little susceptible to that one. All right, so we're going ahead to our next group, our tight ends, the big bodies. So, Kyle, tight ends, who's sleeping for you?
Jim Dre from the Cleveland Browns. No one probably knows who that is. That is the backup to Jordan Cameron. Jordan Cameron will most likely not be playing this week. And they're going up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is one of the worst defenses in the league, especially against opposing tight ends. So if you're really scraping for a tight end this week, go find Dre on the waiver wire. I'm sure he hasn't been picked up by anyone. And he might get you a couple nice looks this week.
All right, Jim Dre for our 16-team leaguers. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so KJ, tight ends. Who do you have as a sleeper?
So I like Coby Fleener this week. I'd like starting everybody who plays for Indianapolis this week. So, yeah, I'm looking at Coby Fleener. Another game that's going to be decided through the air most likely. Neither team has had all that much success on the ground. So Coby Fleener, if you're desperate for a tight end, I'm talking pure desperation. Coby Fleener, just hope for the best.
All right, there you have it. Colby Fleener going up against the Giants in the Big Blue. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into our last slot, our DSTs. So, KJ, DSTs, what was a good sleeper pickup this week for you?
So my sleeper DST, we spoke about them earlier, and Kyle hated it. So Washington is the guy that I'm picking, or the guys that I'm picking, the collective group that I'm picking. We saw them have good success against the secondary of the Cowboys. They kept Des Bryant to a relatively quiet game. So I don't think the Minnesota receivers are going to have much luck against the Washington defense this week. Low-scoring game. I think you're looking at least 8 to 10 points from your defense in a week where some of your stud DSCs might be getting you negative points.
Definitely a group to watch out for. They're probably going to get a couple takeaways as well. So let's just say what it is. So, Kyle, who's your sleeper DST this week?
I'm actually going to be going head-to-head with KJ this week in our sleeper picks. My defense to watch out for this week is the Eagles' defense against Mr. One Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he's pretty prone to a pick six. Maybe Kerry Williams making it back into KJ's heart this week after a pick six. You never know. So I'm going to go with the Eagles' defense this week.
All right. I hope they do horribly, but I know they're going to get a couple. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump to our final segment where we talk to our people. And we have our voice in the streets, Mr. Christopher Gordon. What do the people have to say?
All right, so we have 2 final bonus questions from the people. We really had to look and decide which ones to choose for this final segment, but we have 2. So, starting off, Kyle and KJ, why is Doug Martin so fucking useless?
All right, let's talk to Kyle. What do you think about Doug Martin? What's going on with him?
First of all, that sounds very angry, so I think you're going to need to pump the brakes a little bit on poor Doug Martin. It's not all his fault. But unfortunately for you, if you have Doug Martin, you're going to hate him even more after this week. Just like me and KJ said, Charles Sims is probably going to take over the load for Doug Martin. You're going to see less and less of him and probably get more angry. So just prepare yourself for that.
All right, well said. So, KJ, Doug Martin, would you fight him?
No, I'm not starting Doug Martin. Absolutely not. I was super excited about him having a bounce back season this year, and despite that rookie season, he looks so good. But you got to remember, there's been a regime change in Tampa Bay. I don't think Lovey has any connection or any loyalty to Doug Martin because he's not the one that drafted him. He drafted Charles Sims, who, like I said, is a Matt Forte-ish kind of running back. So I think that's who Lovey's going to be looking to plug in. Doug Martin, I don't know what happened. I think you're going to end up getting traded soon to maybe like the Raiders or somebody who needs a decent running back and wants to give you a shot. Sorry, but
Doug Martin, I hope you're watching. I'm sorry to say. So back to the people. Christopher Gordon.
All right, so this question actually was from last week. It was so good, we had to bring it over to this week. So, Kyle, KJ, who has the hairier ball sack? John or Jim Harbaugh?
Ooh.
Go.
All right. Go ahead, Kyle.
I'm going to go first on this one. I think that this is actually a very easy question to answer. If you ever watch the sidelines, John Harbaugh is very professional, very, very clean cut, very professional in every way possible. So you know how he's going down there. Everything is going to be in shape, groomed perfectly. But John Harbaugh on the other side, he is a maniac. He's like a caveman. You know exactly what's going on down there, so you have to go with John Harbaugh on this one. Absolutely. Start John Harbaugh in all of your fantasy leagues this week.
In the ball sack
All
category.
right. So, KJ, who's got the bush?
the Mega Bush belongs to John Harbaugh. Agreed, Kyle. I think if your league gets you extra points for the hairier coach, I think you're going to have to start Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a maniac on the sideline, screaming all the time. And that screams scares those Dockers every week. And I think it's because he needs extra room in the front, maybe. The khakis kind of scream, hey, I'm a guy who has the Mega Bush. So, yeah, John Harbaugh has the hairiest ball sack in the league, probably.
All right. Was that a sufficient answer?
His it probably looks like Troy Polamalu.
Oh boy.
Just per plus commercials
Oh
for
boy.
his side.
Yeah, shampoo and everything. All right, Gordon.
That's wonderful. Well, thanks again, guys. So please, all the viewers out there, follow us on Twitter at Ultimate Plan B. Use the hashtag KVKUPB. Just want to call out that our Twitter account is calling out more league events before your favorite reporters, including Adam Schefter and CBS Sports. So props. Also, please, guys, on Facebook, simply just search The Ultimate Plan B. Thanks again, guys.
All right, you heard him there. Definitely check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Definitely doing a lot of hard work for you guys. And these guys are definitely hard at work checking out these bushes. You know what I mean? So, just to make sure you guys are aware, we are working hard for you guys. Keeping up for you. Week 9, definitely popping them out. All you basketball fans out there, we are thinking about you. NBA season just started yesterday for us. So, definitely look out for something for the NBA season. We definitely have some NBA fans out here. So, besides the NBA season, also I'd like to mention that we do have a gaming series that will be preparing soon. We are having lots and lots of input, different players coming in, different games that are coming out left and right. Definitely have our Destiny fans out there, our sports fans. We definitely have Keep Up For You. And Borderlands, there's endless amounts of game out there that we're going to definitely deliver. So, as said, keep watching.